The Silent Witness. It was a story that had haunted the internet for years. Elisa Lam, a young Canadian tourist, caught in the last moments of her life in a hotel elevator, behaving as though something unseen was chasing her. Her body was later found, lifeless and abandoned, in a water tank atop the Cecil Hotel. The police called it an accident. The internet, however, had its own theories. Dark, twisted, and terrifying theories. But what if the truth was far worse than anyone could imagine? Alex Matthews, a journalist known for uncovering the darkest secrets of the world, stared at his screen, watching the footage of Elisa Lam over and over. There was something off about it, something that didn't sit right in his gut. What had happened in that hotel? Why did the elevator door behave as if it were alive? What made Elisa act the way she did? He had to know. He had to uncover the truth. And so, with his team in tow, Mara, a paranormal historian, and David, a tech expert, they arrived at the Cecil Hotel expecting nothing more than another bizarre case to crack wide open. But as soon as they stepped through the cracked doors, something hit them. The air was thick with an energy they couldn't explain, like the hotel itself was holding its breath. The lobby, once grand, was now a decaying reminder of what had been. Dust clung to everything, and shadows moved just out of sight. "There's something wrong here," Mara whispered, her voice barely audible over the silence. David, trying to keep it light, joked, "It's just an old building, that's all. No ghosts, no curse, just history." But Alex didn't answer. His eyes scanned the dark corners of the room, the long-forgotten spaces that seemed to whisper something he couldn't hear. Something ancient, something dangerous. And that's when they realized, what if Elisa Lam hadn't been the first? What if she was just the latest victim of a far darker force, one that the hotel itself harbored deep within its walls? Chapter 1. The past never leaves. They settled into their rooms, the air oppressive and thick with the weight of history. Alex had been in plenty of creepy hotels in his career, but the Cecil felt different. It wasn't just the decaying walls or the strange smells that lingered in the hallways. It was the feeling that something was watching them, waiting for them to uncover the secrets it had hidden for decades. David, as always, was the skeptic. "It's all just old legends and bad luck," he said, fiddling with his camera equipment. "This place is just a tourist trap for conspiracy theorists." Mara, on the other hand, had a more unsettled look in her eyes. "There's something about this place. I can feel it. Something's wrong here." Alex didn't respond. He didn't need to. He could feel it too. That night, they gathered in the hotel's lounge. The dim lights flickered as they spread out old photographs and documents across the table, trying to piece together the history of the place. It wasn't hard to find strange reports. The hotel had been the site of numerous bizarre deaths, suicides, and disappearances, many of which had gone unnoticed or ignored by the media. In fact, the Cecil had a reputation long before Elisa Lam's death made headlines. A name stood out in the pile of forgotten clippings. Richard Ramirez, the notorious Night Stalker serial killer, had stayed in the hotel during his killing spree. And then there were whispers of a woman named Mary Reeves, who had stayed at the Cecil in the 1920s, only to die under mysterious circumstances. She had written a journal, one that Alex was determined to track down. "Look at this," Mara said, pulling an old photograph from the stack. It showed a group of hotel guests standing in front of the building, their smiles forced and their eyes hollow. "There's something in their eyes," Alex said, his voice barely a whisper. "It's like they're not really there." He wasn't sure why, but he couldn't shake the feeling that they were already too deep into something they couldn't escape. The hotel wasn't just haunted, it was alive, breathing in the fear of those who entered, and it wasn't about to let them go. Chapter 2. The Elevator. The next morning, they decided to visit the site where Elisa Lam's body had been discovered. The roof access door, which had been locked after the incident, was now open. It led them to the water tanks where her body had been found. Her final haunting moments still burned into the collective memory of the internet. Standing at the edge of the roof, Alex couldn't shake the feeling that something was wrong. The wind was still, too still. The city around them seemed distant, as though the hotel existed in a vacuum, separate from everything else. As they made their way back inside, David's eyes locked onto something, an old elevator at the far end of the hall. It was the same elevator in the footage of Elisa Lam's final moments. "I have to check it out," David said, heading toward it. Against his better judgment, Alex followed. The elevator doors creaked open, revealing an ancient, rusted interior. David pushed the button, and the elevator jerked to life with a groan. It ascended slowly, then stopped on the 13th floor. The moment the doors opened, a chill washed over them. The hall was empty, save for a thick layer of dust that covered the floor. But as they stepped out, something felt off. The temperature dropped sharply, and they could feel the weight of something invisible pressing in from all sides. They walked down the hall, their footsteps loud in the silence. And then they found it. The door to room 1302, one that had been sealed for years. Inside, they found an old desk with yellowed papers scattered across it. But it was the journal that caught Alex's eye. The pages were brittle, the ink faded, but the words were clear. The journal belonged to Mary Reeves, a woman who had stayed at the hotel in the 1920s. Her last entry was the most chilling. It watches, it waits, it follows, it feeds. I can feel it growing stronger, and I fear it has already claimed me. If you find this, do not stay. Do not stay in the Cecil. It will take you too. Alex's heart raced. They were too late. The hotel wasn't just a building, it was a trap, and they were already caught. Chapter 3. Trapped. As night fell, the team realized they were no longer in control. The elevator doors wouldn't open when they tried to return to the ground floor. The hallways shifted, elongated, as though the hotel itself was twisting to keep them trapped inside. The air grew colder, the shadows darker, and the feeling of being watched became overwhelming. David's camera malfunctioned, the screen flickering with strange images that none of them could explain. In one frame, they saw Elisa Lam's face, her wide, terrified eyes staring directly at them. In another, the figure of a gaunt, pale man appeared, his eyes glowing with an eerie, unnatural light. They tried to run, but no matter where they went, they ended up back in the same hallway, the same dark room. The hotel had swallowed them whole, and then they heard it. The whisper, soft and haunting, floating just beyond their reach. You are the next. Chapter 4. The End. The truth was clear now. The Cecil Hotel was alive, a malevolent entity that fed on the fear and suffering of those who entered. It had claimed Elisa Lam, and now it had set its sights on them. The last thing Alex saw was the elevator doors opening one final time, and when they stepped inside, they knew they would never leave. The hotel had claimed them. The Silent Witness was the last story Alex Matthews would ever write. But the hotel's curse remained, feeding on those who dared to uncover its secrets. And as the world moved on, the Cecil Hotel continued to wait for its next victim.